Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, and in this Game Telecom video, we're going to be discussing the NX because yet more rumours, speculations, and leaks have appeared on the internets. Now, just like any NX information, I would put a huge truckload of salt on it until Nintendo formally announce what the machine is capable of. Now, these particular leaks have been doing the rounds on the internet for about 24 hours now, and I've got a couple of messages asking my opinions on them. Now, I would like to add a small other caveat in that I'm still a little sick, so hopefully I'm not too nasally, and hopefully I can resist tangents to a degree. But with all of that said, let's jump in. So first things first, the one striking thing about these particular leaks, and I'm going to say it in such a tone until we know differently, is that they go very much against the grain of the Nvidia involvement that we'd heard about the Tegra and so on inside the system. Also, you might recall that the original leaks, and once again I'm saying it in such a tone because we don't really know what's true at this point, because there's so much counter rumouring going on, if that made any sense. But anyway, the original rumours said that the system was not going to be even as powerful as the Xbox One. These rumours say that no, it actually is considerably more powerful than even the PlayStation 4. So basically there's going to be two NX bundles. The primary difference between them is storage speed, which I'm assuming will be like how fast the data is pulled from the internal console storage, but it's going to be 128 gigabytes. That is with the home console and of course the handheld design. That's 399 or 349. So new NX hardware informations, as the tweet says, has appeared, which pretty much scuppers if these rumours are accurate, which I have my doubts, but we'll go into that in just a second. The AMD are involved, the DMP are involved, 2.5 teraflops, and there is indeed a home unit and a mobile unit. The latter piece of information, the fact that the console is essentially split into a home and mobile device, is pretty much well established by now by a slew of rumours. But AMD involved is not so well established, to say the least. Of course, we've heard so much about Nvidia putting out their particular piece of hardware. And in terms of information of the software, mainstream app integration for the handheld app focus, home console game focus with home console apps in limited functions, supposedly. And there's going to be a lineup of 21 games for launch, I'm assuming, which includes every third-party title as well. And for the NX ecosystem, enhanced Miiverse, enhanced eShop, no subscription-based model, so I'm going to assume that means no pay-to-play online, which is great. And region lockout of games is also a nah. So no need to worry about mod chipping or whatever if you happen to import a game from Japan or the States or whatever other region. That's excellent. Which I don't think they can reveal it much later than that, to be honest. Lowered developing fees, we've heard that, as well as optimization kept simple. In other words, the idea is Nintendo, are trying to get people to actually develop for the system. The only way they can really do that is to not make it so that you have to essentially solve the mathematics of life just to be able to draw a texture. And a couple of Nintendo's consoles have been really iffy with development. The N64 being an absolute bastard, and anyone who did a lot of research on the N64 back in the day will know that the N64 had some really problematic problems. My brain's fried, you'll have to excuse me. But anyway, I had a lot of problems with the memory system, and essentially there was a lot of latency involved. Anyway, information of the future. Now, supposedly it's upgradable, and it's an operating system, an optimized eShop, optimized Miiverse, and reveal announcement. What the hell is upgradability? I'm going to assume that that's going to be down to the docking station, or potentially cartridges, which could be potentially upgradable, by which I mean obviously you've got the Super FX chip and all of that. I could see that working, or potentially, once again, there could even be like a credit card sized little slot which you would put something in. I'm just putting words into their mouth on that. Upgradable is a very loose term. I don't necessarily know if Nintendo would go upgradable, but since Sony have done it and the Xbox is doing it, essentially, I mean, face it, the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Scorpio, they're not exactly upgrades, as in like you're putting a new processor in the console, but they're upgrades in terms of they're actually improvements to the hardware, so maybe Nintendo are going to do similar. Anyway, upgradability is optional, limited for core gamers, so obviously that means that it's not going to be for a casual crowd. It's not planned for the NX launch window, which is not surprising because ultimately it would probably piss people off if they were to say, hey look, there's this upgrade here and it's going to do X, Y and Z to the console. People are immediately going to say, well, why is it not built into the base system? And estimated arrival is supposedly late 2017. Supplemental computing devices still in early phase, only functional with home console, nothing known about the additions, optimized eShop, variety of apps, games and different finalized name, Miiverse, different name, social media integration and mini apps. And supposedly this individual does not want these informations spread on Reddit, forums and gaming media. However, the really big thing about this, of course, is that these rumours have already started to do it, and they've already appeared on Reddit, NeoGAF, and all of the other usual suspect places, and once again I was asked my opinions on it. So there's an obvious question, is this even slightly accurate, is it plausible? And let's focus on AMD's involvement in the system. Now, it's quite interesting because there's been a massive number of leaks which have told us it's going to be, of course, NVIDIA-based system. But then some folks said that that's not necessarily the case. Supposedly, NVIDIA was still facing off against AMD in the eyes of Nintendo, and Nintendo was still trying to figure out what was what. Now, there have been instances in the past where there has been the old switcheroo quite near the last minute, or at least during the console's development. One of the classic examples, and certainly not the only one, is the Dreamcast. Now, if you were gaming back in, let's say, the late 90s, let's say 97, 98, I think was when the Dreamcast rumours were really hitting their stride, you'll remember that there was supposedly several different variants of the Dreamcast hardware, Black Belt, Katana, and basically there were different types of chipset inside those systems. One was using the Voodoo cards, and one was using, of course, the Power VR, and there was another one, I believe, as well. Basically what happened is 3DFX kind of did a boo-boo. They made an announcement that they had been selected to put out the hardware for the Dreamcast, or the console that would have been the Dreamcast instead. And basically Sega were pissed and they pulled the contract out from under them. So what happened is that in 3DFX, I believe, sued Sega. Sega went with Power VR and it was a whole thing. I'm not saying this is the similar situation with Nvidia or AMD. It could have been that they just went with AMD because they decided to go cheaper. It could be it's a load of bollocks and really these rumours are a load of bollocks. It could be that there will be a dual solution, although I don't think that's the case because it would be a complete nightmare from the point of view of developers. And honestly, it's a bit of a weird one. 2.5 T-flops is also an awful lot. To put it into perspective, I won't go through the entire myriad of consoles since the beginning of time, but the Xbox One is about 1.3, the PlayStation 4 is about 1.84, and the Xbox Scorpio is 6 T-flops, and the PS4 Pro is about 4.2. I say about because generally you've got like 4.21 or what have you, and I'm just rounding them up or down. So, in those instances, the NX, if it's this powerful, is actually a beast. Now, obviously that's not going to be for the home console. Just to reiterate, sorry, that will be for the home console. To reiterate, this will not be for handheld mode. At least I highly doubt it. Is it possible for them to put out that amount of performance quite easily? Yeah, not too difficult, really. And it depends really how it's put together. For example, it could have a couple of different processors. It could have a low-end processor in the handheld area, but in the home console area, it could have a more powerful AMD-based APU, which could presumably be, let's say, based upon, I don't know, Jaguar and, oh, I don't know, Polaris, because let's face it, that's probably the default options by now. The only issue is there's been an awful lot of information to tell us it's ARM-based. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't theoretically have that pairing, but it's just, I don't know, I'm 50-50 on if NVIDIA would basically a 50-50 to see whether Nvidia, if they were originally chosen, would be pushed out at this stage by AMD. But then again, because we don't know the validity of the original rumours, or even how this console is going to be bloody well put together, it's a bit difficult for me to say no, it's 100% not accurate. And that's the issue with rumours like this. It's not like it's a fact. So for example, if there's a fact where, let's say, you have, oh, I don't know, the Zen. The Zen is one of the best examples of rumours and speculation which you can actually quantify to a degree. The reason I say that is because AMD have told us it's a 40% improvement per clock over the previous generation. We know roughly what the system is capable of based upon a few benchmarks that AMD themselves have released. And therefore it's not difficult to start saying to yourself, well, hey, if you increase the clock speed by X and assume a small IPC of Y, then you can start to at least have an idea of how it's going to compete against Kaby Lake, Skylake, and whatever other lakes that Intel want to come up with. But with a rumour like this, there is no grounding. The only grounding is we know it's made by Nintendo, there's going to be Nintendo games on it, it's going to be a handheld, it's going to have cartridges, it's going to also function as a console, and there's a screen on it. And it's going to have a whole bunch of weird input devices. But there's no real constants, there's a whole bunch of variables. And yes, these rumours are certainly not anywhere near as well-founded as previous rumours about the Tegra and so on. But ultimately, we don't even know whether it's going to be the first generation Tegra, a later generation Tegra, and so on. So it's just really up in the air. Now, personally, I don't think these rumours are accurate. I'm going to say I personally don't believe they are, because it seems really dicey that this person didn't want coverage. It seems really dicey that all of the other rumours have, with a lot more weight behind them, have said Nvidia. And it also seems really dicey that this level of performance, when so many folks have said that the system just doesn't have that much grunt behind it. So, for my personal opinion, I don't think that the console is going to be as powerful as the PS4. But whether the rest of it's going to be accurate, for example, whether the pricing, whether we're going to get upgradability, I just don't know. I mean, as of the time I'm recording this, it is currently 02/10/2016, almost 8 PM, by the way, just for your FYI. And I find it absolutely ridiculous that it is October, and we do not know what the system is going to be even slightly like, and the console is supposedly going to be released in March. It just baffles the mind. And at least with other consoles, we've had a lot more lead time. We've seen pictures of the controller, we've seen rumours of the specifications, we've seen some gameplay of, like, some solid gameplay or something. And the fact that Nintendo are being so damn cagey about the system, I'm just baffled. And I know that some people are going to say, well, it's because they want to be secretive, they want to baffle the gamers, they don't want other people to copy them or whatever. But I think it might be doing them some harm at this point. And maybe that's just my opinion, but I don't know, with the Pro coming out, with the PSVR coming out, with a fuck ton, excuse the language, of console hardware, the Xbox One S is selling like 1,000% increase, by the way, over the last couple of weeks in the UK. I'm not sure about the rest of the regions, but in the UK, the uptake rate of the Xbox One's doing really well. You've got massive games like Gears of War 4 and all of the other titles coming out on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, like Final Fantasy 15. As I said, the PSVR, the PS4 Pro, Scorpio's coming out late next year, and you've got loads of PC hardware as well. Like, for example, Zen. You've got Polaris now, which is pretty damn nice. You've got the GTX 1080 Ti coming out. And I know I'm saying a whole bunch of stuff which doesn't necessarily mean the NX is doomed. I'm simply saying that to a lot of folks, they have to make decisions on limited funds they've got. And let's face it, if you've only got like X amount of cash, you might just say to yourself, bollocks to it, I just want to go ahead and buy the PS4 Pro. And I really couldn't blame you. If you're a PC gamer and you fancy as well owning a console, or you've not jumped into the next generation yet, or, you know, maybe you've got a PS4 at the moment, you're thinking about the Xbox One S, but you think, don't really want to do that. You know, I'll wait for the Scorpio. It's not that long away, and you think to yourself, well, I could get the PS4 Pro. It means I've got higher resolution gaming. I'm going to get a 4K television anyway, so I might as well. So I'll get the PS4 Pro. I'll do a trade-in of my current PS4. They've got some good deals going on at the moment, various shops across the countries. Yeah, and it's just, I'm not saying that the NX is going to sell badly, but I think Nintendo do need to put out a bit more information on it. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video, or not. I don't think it's really told us much, has it? But, eh. Anyway, take care of yourselves. Bye for now.